The road stretched endlessly beneath the blazing afternoon sun. The wind carried the dry scent of dust and the faint echo of engines as a group of bikers thundered across the empty highway. Chrome gleamed under the light, leather jackets flapped in the breeze, and the rhythm of roaring engines filled the silence of nowhere. Among them rode Ryan, a man who wasn't chasing adventure anymore. He rode because it was the only thing that still made him feel alive. Ryan had been on the road for years. It wasn't just a hobby, it was an escape. The world behind him felt heavy, full of memories he no longer wanted to touch. His wife, Mia, had passed away 2 winters ago. No warning, no time for goodbyes. One day she was there, the next she was gone. The house they built together turned quiet, empty, like the laughter had packed its bags and left too. He tried filling the silence with work, with noise, with anything that made sense. Nothing did. Only the open road gave him a kind of peace, even if it was the lonely kind. That day wasn't supposed to be different. Just another ride under the sun, just another stretch of road disappearing behind him. But sometimes life has a way of finding you when you least expect it. Sometimes kindness shows up not as a plan, but as a moment that changes everything. As the bikers slowed near a small roadside tea stall, Ryan caught sight of something at the edge of the road. A little boy stood there, barefoot, holding a rusted tin can. His clothes hung loosely from his shoulders, and his hair was matted with dust. His eyes weren't angry or wild. They were quiet, tired, and filled with something that made Ryan's chest tighten. The boy didn't shout, didn't beg. He just stood there, waiting, watching. Ryan parked his bike, ignoring the confused looks from his friends. He walked toward the boy, the sound of boots crunching on gravel. "Hey, buddy," he said gently. "What are you doing out here?" The boy hesitated, clutching the can tighter. "Sir," he said softly, "can you please buy this?" Ryan looked down. The can was bent and empty. "Buy it?" he asked. The boy nodded. "Yes, sir. I need money to get food for my sister." "She's hungry." Ryan's heart tightened. He crouched down, trying to meet the boy's eyes. "Where's your sister?" The boy pointed down a narrow dirt path that led into a cluster of trees. "She's waiting there," he whispered. "She hasn't eaten since yesterday." Ryan stayed silent for a moment. The sound of the engines idling behind him faded away. He thought of Mia, her voice soft and kind, the way she used to say, "Never walk past someone in need, Ryan. You might be the only hope they have." He stood up, turned to his friends, and said, "We're not leaving yet." They followed the boy down the path. The sun dipped lower as they walked, the light turning golden and soft. The air grew still, heavy with the smell of dust and dry leaves. When they reached the hut, Ryan's breath caught. It was barely standing, patches of wood, a few sheets of metal for a roof, and a doorway that hung open. Inside sat a little girl, no older than 4, holding a broken doll in her small hands. Her eyes were large and glassy, and when she looked up, she didn't smile. The boy ran to her side. "I brought people," he said quietly. "They might help." Ryan stepped closer, kneeling down. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly. "When did you last eat?" The girl didn't answer. She just looked at the empty bowl beside her. Her brother's voice broke the silence. "Yesterday morning," he said. "I tried to sell the can, but no one wanted it." Ryan took out his wallet, ready to hand over some cash. But as he looked at the boy's small, trembling hands, he realized something. Money would fill their stomachs tonight, but it wouldn't fix the emptiness tomorrow. He looked back at his friends and said, "Let's do something real." The men nodded, no questions asked. Within an hour, the sound of engines roared again as they sped toward the nearest town. They filled their saddlebags with rice, bread, milk, fruit, and a few toys. The shopkeeper stared in confusion as they packed everything tight, paid quickly, and rode back into the fading light. When they returned, the children were sitting outside the hut, waiting. When the first headlight appeared, the little girl stood up, her doll falling from her hands. Ryan parked, swung off his bike, and smiled. "We brought dinner," he said. The boy's mouth opened slightly as if he couldn't believe it. The men unloaded food, blankets, and clothes. The little girl covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. "No one ever helped us before," the boy whispered. Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Well, someone had to start. That night, they cooked together over a small fire. The smell of food mixed with the night air. The children ate quietly at first, then faster, smiling between bites. The bikers laughed and shared stories as if they'd known each other forever. In that tiny hut, surrounded by the sound of crickets and wind, something beautiful happened. Hope came back to life. Later, when the others were asleep, Ryan sat outside staring at the stars. The night was still. The boy came out and sat beside him without a word. After a long silence, he asked, "Sir, why did you stop for us?" "Nobody ever does." Ryan looked at the stars for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Because once, someone stopped for me." The boy didn't reply, but he understood. His eyes softened in the moonlight, and for a while they just sat there quietly, side by side. The next morning, the bikers helped fix the small hut. They patched holes, nailed loose boards, and painted the walls with leftover paint from a shop nearby. Before leaving, Ryan slipped a folded note under the boy's pillow. It said, "When life gets hard, don't give up. Someday, help someone the way you were helped. That's how the world heals." As the bikers rode away, the children ran to the road, waving. The little girl held her new doll close, smiling wider than she had in days. Ryan looked in his mirror and saw them growing smaller in the distance until they disappeared behind a cloud of dust. For the first time in years, his heart felt full. Days turned into weeks. Life moved on. But Ryan couldn't forget those faces. Something had shifted inside him that day. It was more than a good deed. It was a reminder that life still had meaning, that kindness wasn't just a word, it was a way back to hope. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in orange and pink, Ryan gathered his biker friends again. "I've been thinking," he said, "let's turn this into something bigger. Not a one-time thing, something that lasts." They listened quietly. "What do you mean?" one of them asked. Ryan smiled. "Every month we'll ride. We'll find someone who needs help. A family, a stranger, anyone. We'll do what we can. No fame, no sponsors, no cameras. Just kindness." And that's how it started. They called it Miles of Kindness. Their first ride was to help a struggling farmer whose cart had broken down. The next, they brought supplies to an orphanage. Then another ride, another act of help. Word spread. Soon other bikers joined them. Across towns and cities, riders carried food, clothes, and comfort to those forgotten by the world. Ryan often thought back to that first night, to the hungry boy with the rusted can. If he hadn't stopped, none of it would have happened. Sometimes one small choice can ripple across countless lives. As time passed, Ryan began visiting that same village once every few months. The children were growing. The boy had started school. The little girl was always the first to run out when she heard the sound of bikes approaching. She'd laugh and wave as Ryan handed her small gifts: books, clothes, toys. Every time he left, she'd call out, "Come back soon." And he always did. Those moments healed something in him. The grief that once felt endless began to fade, replaced by quiet gratitude. He realized that pain doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It softens when you turn it into something good. He understood that kindness wasn't about saving the world. It was about saving one person at a time. And in doing so, it saves you too. Ryan's story spread, not through fame or social media, but through whispers, tales told in small towns, stories shared by people who had once been helped by a stranger on a motorcycle. They called him the Rider of Hope. He never liked that name, but it stuck. For him, it was never about being seen. It was about remembering the simple truth Mia had once told him. Kindness doesn't ask for recognition. It just acts. So if you ever find yourself driving down a long road and you see someone standing there, someone tired, hungry, or lost, don't look away. Don't wait for someone else to stop, because sometimes the smallest moment of compassion can change a lifetime of struggle. You never know what your act of kindness will become. Maybe it will feed a child. Maybe it will rebuild a home. Or maybe, just maybe, it will remind someone that goodness still exists in the world. That day on that dusty road, Ryan didn't just feed two children. He found a reason to live again. He learned that the fastest way to heal your own heart is to help someone else's. And long after the engines faded and the dust settled, two children stood outside their small home, holding on to the memory of strangers who came like angels on wheels, and a man who simply couldn't drive away. Because sometimes the most powerful journeys don't happen on the road. They happen inside the heart, the moment you choose kindness over indifference, compassion over comfort, and love over fear. That's where real healing begins.